to another yarn review video. My name is Anniken and I live in the southwest of England, and it's quite chilly today, so I was quite glad to put this shawl on. I actually put it on before I got ready to start filming, just because it's a bit chilly in my office this morning. So today I'm going to do a yarn review. This is the yarn I'm going to be talking about, and it's the yarn I knitted this shawl in, and it's called Schoppel Zauberperlen. Zauberperlen. I'll put all the links to where you can find this below. I saw this yarn last summer, I think, or early autumn online, and I immediately fell in love with it and thought I have to have it. And that is from Schoppel, which is a yarn company that I am quite a big fan of anyway. When I came back from Norway at the end of November, I ordered some of this and immediately cast on for this shawl, which I'll talk a bit more about later on. So this is Schoppel Zauberperlen. So Perlen, I guess, is German for pearls. It's like a string of pearls, a gradient that goes from pink through to yellow. They do quite a nice selection of colours. I only have this one and one other colour, which is blues and blacks at the moment, but I will be getting more in next month, but more about that later. When I got this, I went for the brightest colour I could find, because that's what I need in the winter, a bit of brightness. And at the moment, as we're in lockdown again, I think having a bright, colourful shawl is quite nice. So this is a pure merino yarn, so it's 100% superfine merino, so it's very soft, and it's applied yarn, so it means it has several strands spun together. And the way the colour gradient works is that you start with a solid colour, so in this case is pink, and then the next ball has one strand of the yellow. So it's mostly pink and then one strand of the yellow. So they take out one strand of pink and put in one strand of yellow. And then this one they take out another strand of pink and put in another strand of yellow. So that has two strands of yellow. And then it gradually moves through the colours till you get to this one, which only has one strand of the pink, and then we get to the yellow. You can knit it in either direction, but for this shawl, I knitted it from the pink round to the yellow and then back again to the pink. But you can knit it in any combination you want to. So this little set is 100 grams, and it is 7 balls. I know that because they're individual balls, that means you have to weave in the ends, but it's really not that much of a problem. And you can always knit them in as you go if you prefer. And I think it's worth it to get these fun colours. So the way the colours move, let me take this off and show you. So it moves very gradually. You can see where I've changed colours, but it moves kind of gradually across, from pink to yellow. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this yarn, then I'll talk a little bit about this shawl. So I knitted this shawl. It has a very simple lace pattern. Actually has two very simple lace patterns, and I knitted it in garter stitch. So every wrong side row is just plain garter stitch, plain knit stitch. So I also knitted a swatch in stocking stitch just to see what it would knit up in stocking stitch. The recommended needle size is 2 to 3 millimeter. That's what it says on the ball band. I think I used 3.5 millimeter for this, but I didn't write it down, which is a bit annoying. So it is a little bit looser than the recommended needle size, but it has lovely drape. I have all these little tiny balls left. I tried to have a little bit left of each ball when I changed colour for this shawl. So I got all these little tiny balls left, and I used 2 of those to knit this little swatch. And it looks really nice in stocking stitch. It has nice even stitch tension, and the colour I chose, one of the colours in the middle of the gradient, I think it was that one. That's the one, yeah, that one. So that's how that knits up in terms of the colour. I haven't tried any other stitch patterns in this yarn, so I haven't tried to do cables or anything like that. The problem with a yarn that has the colours mixed like this, so different strands applied together, is you have to be a little bit careful about what kind of stitch pattern you choose. Because if the stitch pattern is too complex, it can disappear a bit in the yarn. It's the same if you buy a hand-dyed yarn that's very busy, so it's got lots of different colours, small splashes of colours. It can get a little bit lost in some more complex stitch patterns, and I took that into account when I designed this shawl. For Coverack, I used 4.5mm needles. Normally I knit a shawl in this weight yarn on 4mm needles, but because this was in garter stitch with a very simple stitch pattern, I decided to go for 4.5mm needles. I wanted to make sure that this shawl was nice and big, and when I was knitting it, it didn't feel like it was that big, but when I finished it and blocked it, I realized it was actually quite big. So I really like this. It's nice and soft. I haven't worn it yet because I've been trying to keep it looking nice for this video, so I can start wearing it now, which is nice. So the Coverack is worked sideways, so you start at one end and then you gradually increase while you're working along the shawl, and then the yellow bit in the middle is worked without any increases, so that's just worked straight, which means that instead of getting a point at the bottom, it rounds it out a little bit, so it gives a little bit more of a triangular crescent shape, or smooth triangular shape, rather than just going down to a point at the bottom of the shawl. So the yellow bit is worked straight, and then the last bit is decreased back to the yellow. So when you choose, this goes for any gradient, when you choose which end to start from, because this one starts with just a few stitches over here and then it gradually increases, you do more rows with the first colour. So you can see that section from there to there, that's the first colour, and then the second colour goes in this section, and then the third colour is stood by here, and then that's the next colour, and that's the next colour. So you can see for each colour I'm doing slightly fewer rows, and then obviously because I put the two yellow balls next to each other, that's more rows again. So you want to choose the colour that you want to have the most impact. So if I started with the yellow one would have had a bigger impact on the shawl, but I wanted the pink to kind of show up more, so that's why I started with the pink colour. So you have to take those kind of things into consideration when you knit with any kind of gradient yarn, not just this yarn. Any kind of gradient yarn, you've got to think about that. So Coverack has a really nice edging as well, with this double yarn over stitch pattern, and the edging is knitted along with the shawl, so you don't have to knit anything on afterwards. Everything is knitted in one piece. I really love knitting this shawl, and I would definitely knit with this yarn again. At the time of recording this video and publishing it, I have Coverack kits available for pre-order in I think there's 6 different colorways I chose, including this one. And the kits are already discounted, so you don't need a discount code. But if you bought the 2 sets of Zauberperlen and the pattern separately, you would pay at least £37. And I've listed the kits for £34, so you do save £3. You do have to order it by the end of January. So if you're watching this at some point in the future, the kits may or may not be available, but do check out my website, because the yarn will be available and in a range of colours, and there may be kits, or maybe by the time you watch this I've designed something else in this yarn, because I have got other plans for this yarn as well. You can also get the Coverack pattern separately, so if you don't want the kit and you just want the Coverack pattern, you can get that separately. It's available on both Payhip and Ravelry, and I'll put the links to both below. And till the end of January there is a discount if you purchase the pattern, and that discount is on the pattern page. So obviously watching this after 1st of February 2021, then you'll miss out on that discount, but pattern's not that expensive anyway, so hopefully you'll still want to get it. And do make sure that you go to my website and sign up to my newsletter, because that means in the future, if there's any patterns or new kits and new videos and all that kind of stuff, you'll be among the first to know and you won't miss out. So I really enjoyed knitting with this yarn. It's a fun, bright colours, Like I said, it comes in a range of different colours, and I will have more of them on my website soon. The yarn is really soft because it's merino, so it's very soft, and it's a fun yarn to knit with, and I will definitely be designing more designs with this in the future. So a few details about the yarn. So the yarn comes in a 100-gram ring, and you it's got like elasticated thread through it. So what I did when I knitted with this is I took it, loops around the tag, so I looped it off, took one ball off, and then I looped it back on again, so it stayed in that circle till I got to the end. I will add a couple of videos on at the end of this yarn review, which I filmed while I was knitting this. I think I shared some of them in my last podcast episode, but in case you missed that, I'll just add them to the end of this video because they're not that long. And you can see some of my process for knitting the Coverack shawl. So again, this is 100 grams, 400 meters. It means it's a 4-ply fingering weight yarn, and it also means that you can substitute this yarn for a lot of shawl patterns. It's suitable for a lot of shawl patterns. So a lot of shawl patterns that either use 100 grams, 400 meters, or 200 grams, 800 meters, including a lot of my patterns. So if you like this yarn but you don't want to knit Coverack, then you can go through my other patterns, and all the patterns that use Zauberball or Zauberball 100 from Schoppel are suitable. You can use this yarn instead if you want to. So I really enjoyed knitting with this yarn. I really enjoyed knitting this shawl. I hope you like it as well, and if you want to grab a kit at the discounted price, the link is below, and if you want to grab the pattern, the link to that is below as well. And I hope you liked this video. Do give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content. If there is any yarn in particular that you'd like me to review, I'd like to do more yarn reviews this year. So if there's another yarn that you would like me to review, do leave a comment below, and I will see if I can get hold of it and do a yarn review for you. So thank you very much for watching. I will be back soon with a regular podcast episode, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I will just add a few videos after this showing some of the process while I was knitting this shawl. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. I cast on for a new design last night using the new Zauberperlen yarn, which I love. I've been wanting to get my hands on this for ages. It has 7 balls in a little circle. So it's fastened with elastic, and you can just hook it off this label, take a ball off, and then hook it back on again. It's really easy. So I've chosen to start with a pink one, which was there. So it has pink at one end, yellow at the other end, and then in between it has varying amounts. So on this one it has the pink plus 1 strand of the yellow. Here it has a little bit more yellow, a little bit more yellow. So this is probably about 50-50. More yellow, less pink, and then yellow at the end. So you can knit them in that way order, or you can knit them in that order. It doesn't really matter which order you knit them in. Or you can mix them up if you want to. It doesn't really matter, you decide. But they are designed to be knitted in a order. So you can start with the yellow and then gradually go to pink, or you can start with the pink and gradually go to yellow. So which way you decide to do it depends on what you're knitting. If you are knitting shawls that start with a few stitches and gradually increase on every row or every other row or something like that, so the rows are getting gradually longer and longer, then the color you start with will have the most impact. So if I start with the pink one like I have here, because the rows are fairly short, because I've started with just a few stitches down here and then I'm gradually increasing. So this row is obviously has more stitches than the row I started with down here. So I will be able to knit further with this pink ball than I will with the next ball, because by the time I start the next ball, my rows are longer. By the time I get to the end, to the yellow one, my rows are at the widest part of the shawl. So this shawl, I'm going to knit a certain width, and then I'm gonna knit till I've used up half the yarn, and then I'm going to start decreasing back to the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 of these 2 together. I'm going to go from pink through to yellow, and then on the second one I'm going to go from yellow through to pink. So I will get quite a lot of the yellow in the middle because I'll get 2 yellow balls next to each other. but the other balls to start with, the pink one is what will have the most impact, which you'll see as I show you as I move through this shawl. But that's what you have to think about when you're using any kind of gradient set, is which color do you want to have the most impact. So if I, for example, if the pink gives me, say, about 10 centimeters, and the next color gives me about 8 centimeters, and then 6 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 2 centimeters, and then if I get down to the last one, I just get like 2 centimeters, just like a thinner stripe, for example, depending on the shape and the increases and that kind of thing. You want to really consider which color you want to have the most impact. So if there's a color you don't like as much, you might want to leave that towards the end, or you could take it out depending on the gradient you have. I'm making good progress on this shawl. So I've actually knitted the first ball, which is the pink one, and then I've also knitted the second one. So you can see the first one did that big, and then the second one is a much shorter section. I think that's actually the right side. It's got to stitch, so it's a little bit difficult to see which is the right side, but that's the right side. So you can see the second section, I have fewer rows than I did for the first section. And then I'm going to start knitting with this one now, which is the next ball in my gradient. So each ball is approximately 14 grams. And because I want to make sure that people who knit the pattern in this yarn don't run out of yarn, I actually am leaving about 1.5 grams of each ball left. Approximately. I have to finish on the end of a wrong side row. So the first one I managed to finish at the end of a full repeat. The second one I did 2 full repeats, and I've done half a third repeat, so 2.5 repeats for that one. This one I did the setup section, which was to here, and then I did 1, 2, 3, 4 full repeats, and now I've done 2.5 repeats. So you can see that it's getting, each section is getting shorter and the yarn is getting slightly lighter. So that's the next one, then it'll be that one. So a little progress on my shawl. I am on ball number 4 now, so I've got 3 full balls left to go. And I'm keeping them on here just to make sure they stay in the right order. So I'm on ball number 4. So we can see we go from pink, a little bit more yellow, a little bit more yellow, and a little bit more yellow. So I quite like, it's looking more kind of peachy at the moment, I think. But I really like how that gradient is working. Obviously you can't really see the lace pattern yet because it hasn't been blocked, so the lace pattern isn't that visible, but hopefully that will look good when I block it. I am actually thinking about, when I get to the yellow, actually changing the lace pattern a little bit for the yellow, but we'll see. I haven't quite decided yet. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this is knitting up. I'm quite enjoying knitting with it.